Hello guys, what is up? In this tutorial, we are going to talk about functions in Python. So first, let's talk about what functions really are. Let's see an example. Let's say you regularly go to kitchen to make a coffee. Every time you boil water, add coffee powder, mix it with sugar and milk. You perform this task repeatedly whenever you want coffee. But you do the same steps every time. Wouldn't it be easy if you could just say, make me a coffee, and the process happened automatically? This is where the concept of functions comes in. In programming, functions are block of codes that perform specific tasks. Just like we could ask someone to make coffee without explaining the steps each time. We can define a function once and then we can reuse it whenever we need it. A function is like a mini program inside our code that we can call anytime we need it. Functions helps us avoid repeating code and make program more organized and easier to read. Now there are two types of functions in Python: built-in functions and user-defined functions. Built-in functions are provided by Python such as print, len or sum that we have already used. On the other hand, user-defined functions are the functions that we create ourselves, which can be customized to perform specific tasks. So in this tutorial, we are going to focus on user-defined functions. Let's learn how to define and use them. To create a function in Python, we use the def keyword, followed by function name and parentheses. After that, we write the code that will execute when the function is called. The syntax looks like this. You can see on the screen. The function name should be meaningful and describe what the function does, because it will be very helpful for us in long codes. Inside the parentheses, we can optionally pass parameters to the function that will influence its behavior. Inside the function body, we can write any code that we want to be executed when the function is called. Now let's look at some examples. First, we will create a simple function that prints a greeting message. So for this, here I am writing def. So the def actually means that we are going to create a function, and then I am writing greet. So greet is the name of our function, and then I am using the parentheses. So within the parentheses we can pass the parameters, but here I am leaving it empty, and then I am writing colon. So the colon indicates the start of the loop body, and then within loop body we have to print a greeting message, hello world. So for this I am writing print and then hello and then world. So this function does not take any parameters, it simply print a message when called. Let's call greet function. So here I am writing greet and then I am using parentheses. Now let's run this code, and here you can see the output is hello world. So we can also call this function multiple times as long as we want. Next, let's create a function that takes parameters. A parameter is like a variable that we pass into a function. Let's modify the greet function so that it take a name as a parameter. So here within the parentheses I am writing man, and then within the print function I am calling name. So name is basically our parenthesis which we have passed as an argument within our function. So now let's call greet function, but we have already called it, and within the parentheses I am writing Danyal. So the Danyal is basically the parameter which we have already defined as a name. So let's run this code, and here you can see the output is hello Danyal. As we can see, we passed the name Danyal into the function, and the function used that parameter to create a personalized greeting. We can also define default parameters in a function. This means that if we don't provide an argument for the parameter, the function will use a default value. Let's modify the greet function again to have a default parameter. Here with the name parameter I am writing name is equal to guest. So here at function calling I am removing the name. So now if we call the function without passing any argument, it will use the default value which we have defined as the guess. Now let's run this code, and here you can see the output is hello guess. Now let's talk about the return value. Sometimes we want a function to return a value so that we can use it later in our code. For example, let's say we want to create a function that calculates the square of numbers. So here I am creating a new function. So first of all I write def. So def actually indicates that we are going to create a function, and then I am writing the function name as square, and then within the parenthesis I am writing number. So number is basically our parameter, and then after the colon I am using the return function by typing return, and then I am multiplying number with another number. So number is actually our parameter, and for return we are multiplying number with number. This function takes a number as a parameter and return its square because we are multiplying number with number. So now let's call our function. So here I am writing result equals to square, and then within the parenthesis I am writing 4. So here this function will consider 4 as the number, and it will find the square of 4. And now let's print the result by typing print result. Now let's run this code, and here you can see the output is 16 because the function returns the square of 4. Let's take it one step further and create a function that performs an addition of two numbers and return the result. So here I am writing def, and then I am defining the function name as add, and then within the parenthesis I am writing a comma b. So here we have two parameters which are a and b, and then I am calling the colon, and then within the loop body I am simply typing return a plus b. So here this function will return the addition of two numbers which will be a and b. Now let's call our function. So here I am writing result equals to add 5 comma 3. So here within the add function I am defining the parameters value as 5 and 3. So overall this function will return the addition of 5 and 3, as we use the return in our function by writing return a plus b. Now let's print the result by typing print result. Now let's run this code, and here you can see the output is 8. We can also pass keyword arguments to function. These are arguments that we pass by name rather than position. Let's create a function called describe person that takes some keyword argument to describe a person. So here I am writing def and then describe person, and then within the parenthesis I am calling name comma age comma city. After the colon I am printing these parameters by typing print f string name is age years old and lives in, and then calling city. So here I have called all three parameters name, age and city. So here if I define name is Danyal and age is 25 and city is Karachi, so it will print like Danyal is 25 years old and lives in city. So now let's call our function. So here I am calling our function by typing describe person, and then I am using name equals to Danyal comma age equals to 25 comma city equals to Karachi. So here this code will print Danyal is 25 years old and lives in Karachi, because here we have passed a keyword argument to the function, and then after calling the function we have defined the values of these parameters as Danyal, 25 and Karachi. So let's run this code, and here you can see the output is Danyal is 25 years old and lives in Karachi. If we want to allow an arbitrary numbers of keyword arguments, we can use keywords in our function definition. Here's an example. So here I am writing def and then writing the function name as print info, and then within parenthesis I am calling keywords function. So here I am typing star sign and then again start sign and then writing keywords function, and then I am using the colon. And then within the body I am using the for loop. So for this I am writing for key comma value in keywords dot items, and then again using the parentheses, and then again using the colon for the for loop, and then I am printing print f string, and then calling key, and then colon, and then calling the value. So here we allow an arbitrary number of keyword arguments by using the keyword function. So now let's call our function by typing print info, which is the name of our function, and then within the parentheses I am writing name equals to Danyal, age equals to 25, comma city equals to Karachi, comma profession equals to programmer. So here instead of defining any parameters we just call the keyword function because it allows an arbitrary number of keyword arguments. Like here we have multiple arguments while calling our function, which are name, age, city and profession. So now let's run this code, and here you can see the output is name Danyal, age 25, city Karachi, profession programmer. So this is how a keyword function could be useful if we have an arbitrary number of keyword arguments. Now another important concept is function as parameters. We can pass a function as an argument to another function. Let's create a function that takes another function as a parameter. So another important concept is functions as parameters. We can pass a function as an argument to another function. Let's create a function that takes another function as a parameter. So for this code we will be creating two functions. So here I am writing def and then writing the function name as apply function, and then within parentheses I am calling two values. One is func comma value. So we have two parameters, func and value, and then for the return I am simply writing return func and then the value. So now let's create another function which is double. So now let's call another function. For this I am simply writing def and then I am writing double, and then for parameter I am simply writing x, and then after the colon I am writing return x into 2. So overall this function will return the multiplication of parameter with the number 2. Now let's print the function by calling them. So here I am simply typing result equals to apply function and then calling double comma 10. So now let's print the result. So for this I am simply typing print result. So what actually we have done in this code is that we have created a function which is apply function that will do nothing but return the value, and then we have created another function which is double which multiplies the parameter with 2. So here we have called the apply function. So basically the apply function will take two parameters which we have already defined as func and value. So for this we are considering these two parameters as the double. Double is basically our function which multiplies the value with 2, and then after the double, after calling the double function, we simply define another parameter or which is the value as the 10. So here the double parameter considered 10 will consider 10 as the x, and it will multiply 10 with the 2. So now let's run this code, and here you can see the output is 20. We can also call a function inside a function. So for this here I am going to write def and then calling a function which is the outer function. So I am defining its name as outer function, and then I am using the parenthesis and then the colon. So within the loop body I am simply defining another function which is def inner function, and then for the body of the inner function I am simply printing hello from the inner function. So for this I am simply typing print hello from the inner function, and then I am calling the inner function. So the inner function, so we are calling inner function as the part of the outer function. So for this we are adjusting the space in such a way. So here I am simply calling the inner function So now let's call our function. So for this, we simply call the outer function. So whenever we call the outer function, the inner function will automatically be called because we have defined the inner function within the outer function, like you can see on the computer screen. So here I am simply calling outer function by typing outer function and then using the parenthesis. Now let's run this code, and here you can see the output is hello from the inner function. So the hello from the inner function was the part of the inner function, but we have called the outer function. So it clearly means that whenever we call the outer function, the inner function will be automatically called if we have defined it within the outer function. So that's all for today's video. If you have any query or any question, you can ask in the comment box. If you enjoyed this tutorial, then do subscribe to YouTube channel and hit the bell icon.